All right, so today we're going to be diving into a story that's both epic and heartbreaking. You know, the American
It's
buffalo.
American Buffalo, yeah.
Imagine, just picture this, like a scene straight out of a classic Western film. Um, a thundering herd of buffalo so vast, it stretches as far as the eye can see,
Yeah,
you know, literally blanketing the plains.
yeah.
Now, picture this. Just a century later,
Okay.
that same landscape is eerily silent. The buffalo nearly vanished.
Right.
What happened?
Well, that's exactly what we're here to uncover.
That's what we're going to uncover today in this deep dive.
It's a story that unfolds like a Greek tragedy, you know?
Mhm.
With heroes, villains, triumphs, and near total devastation.
Right.
And at its heart is a question that resonates through the ages. How could a creature so magnificent and so central to the American landscape be brought to the brink of extinction?
Yeah, how could that happen? And what does this story tell us about ourselves? About humanity? We'll be digging into the history of the buffalo, its deep significance to Native American culture, and those pivotal moments that led to its near demise.
Yeah.
So joining me today is someone who knows, well, quite a bit about the American buffalo.
I do. I've been researching this animal for quite some time now.
So we're going to get into all that today.
Yeah.
Let's rewind the clock to the early 19th century.
Okay.
Lewis and Clark,
Yeah.
you know, those intrepid explorers are forging their way across the American frontier.
Yeah.
And what do they encounter?
Buffalo everywhere.
Buffalo everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
We're talking 30 to 35 million of them roaming free. Can you even fathom that?
It's a number that's almost impossible to grasp, especially for those of us, who've grown accustomed to seeing bison in carefully managed herds or behind fences.
Right.
But for Native Americans, this abundance wasn't a spectacle, it was life itself.
Right. This wasn't just about spotting a majestic creature on a nature walk. For thousands of years, the buffalo have been absolutely integral to Native American life, providing food, shelter, clothing, tools, and even serving as a cornerstone of their spiritual beliefs.
It was, yeah. And this was a relationship built on deep respect and a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of life.
Right.
The buffalo gave, and the people took only what they needed, ensuring the sustainability of both the herd and their way of life.
Right. A very balanced relationship.
Absolutely.
But as we know, that delicate balance was about to be shattered.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Enter the late 19th century,
Yeah.
a time of rapid industrialization, westward expansion, and a tragic shift in the human relationship with nature.
Right.
The Great Slaughter, as it's come to be known, began,
Yeah, that's right.
and it was driven by a confluence of factors.
Absolutely.
A seemingly insatiable demand for buffalo hides in the fashion industry, a market for buffalo tongues seen as a delicacy,
Oh, yeah.
even a push for the use of buffalo bones in fertilizer.
Yeah, there was a demand for everything.
This demand, coupled with the expansion of railroads that made transportation of these goods easier, created the perfect storm.
Yeah, absolutely. It
You're
really
right.
did, yeah.
It was a recipe for disaster, really.
Hmm.
Hunters, armed with increasingly efficient weapons, descended upon the plains. And sadly, the killing wasn't always driven purely by profit.
You're right.
It was sometimes driven by other, more sinister factors, right?
The decimation of the buffalo was also seen as a strategic move by some, a way to weaken and displace Native American populations who relied so heavily on the buffalo for their survival and cultural identity. It was a calculated act of environmental destruction used as a tool of oppression.
A truly chilling chapter in American history, and one that raises profound questions about the consequences of unchecked greed and disregard for the natural world.
Absolutely.
And it's a chapter that underscores the need to look beyond the surface, to understand the complex interplay of economic forces, political agendas, and cultural values that often shape our relationship with the environment.
So we really have to understand these things, right? If
Yeah.
we're going to truly address this, we have to get at the root of it.
Right. So that's a good place to wrap up part one of our deep dive on the American buffalo.
It is, yeah.
Last time we left off on a pretty somber note with the devastating impact of the Great Slaughter. But as promised, the story doesn't end there. Amidst this darkness, glimmers of hope began to emerge.
You're right. Even as the buffalo teetered on the brink of extinction, there were those who recognized the magnitude of what was being lost, not just an animal, but a symbol of the American West, a keystone species in the ecosystem and a cornerstone of Native American culture.
And, one of those individuals who really stepped up was William Temple Hornaday, a figure you might not expect to find at the forefront of the conservation movement.
Yeah, he was a zoologist and a taxidermist. He actually led an expedition to Montana in 1886 to collect buffalo specimens for the Smithsonian, but what he witnessed there changed him. He saw firsthand the devastation, the near total eradication of these once massive herds, and it sparked a fire in him.
It's incredible to think that someone who worked with preserving the dead would become so passionate about protecting the living.
Exactly. Hornaday's experience was a turning point. He realized that simply collecting specimens wouldn't be enough. The living buffalo needed a champion, someone to raise awareness and advocate for their protection, and that's precisely what he did.
So he went from preserving buffalo for museums to fighting to preserve them in the wild. What were some of the first steps in bringing them back?
Well, one of the biggest challenges was simply finding enough buffalo to start rebuilding the herds by the late 1800s. The numbers had dwindled to a few hundred scattered among zoos, private ranches, and a small protected population in Yellowstone National Park.
Wow, starting from just a few hundred, it's mind-boggling to think they were able to bounce back from that.
It really is a testament to the resilience of the species and the dedication of those early conservationists. But there were a lot of unknowns.
Mhm.
Could these captive buffalo, many of whom had never lived in the wild, adapt to their natural environment? Would they be able to reproduce and raise healthy calves? It was a long and uncertain road.
I bet those early conservationists were holding their breath with every new calf born.
They were, and rightfully so. Every calf was a victory, a step closer to bringing the buffalo back from the brink. But it wasn't just about breeding and protecting them in parks. It was about reintegrating them into the landscape, acknowledging their ecological role.
So it was about more than just creating little pockets of preserved wilderness. It was about understanding that the buffalo belonged to a larger ecosystem that needed to be restored as well.
Precisely. Ranchers began to realize the value of incorporating buffalo into their operations, recognizing their hardiness, their ability to thrive on native grasses, and their overall resilience compared to cattle.
It sounds like there was a real shift in thinking, moving away from viewing the buffalo purely as a commodity towards seeing them as a vital part of a healthy ecosystem.
And this shift had a profound impact not just on the landscape, but on the cultural landscape. As well as the buffalo began to make a comeback, so too did the spirits of Native American communities.
Of course, for so many tribes, the buffalo wasn't just an animal, it was woven into the very fabric of their identity.
Exactly. The return of the buffalo wasn't just a conservation victory, it was a cultural resurgence. Tribes across the Great Plains began reintroducing buffalo onto their lands, not just as a source of food and income, but as a way to revitalize their traditions, strengthen their connection to their ancestors, and reclaim a piece of their cultural heritage.
It's a beautiful reminder that conservation isn't just about protecting nature for nature's sake. It's about understanding how deeply intertwined human lives and cultures are with the natural world.
And it's important to acknowledge that this cultural resurgence didn't come easily. Native American communities faced and continue to face immense challenges in reclaiming their lands, restoring their traditional practices, and overcoming the legacy of historical trauma.
Yet they persisted, drawing strength from their ancestors, from their deep spiritual connection to the land and the buffalo. Their story is a testament to the power of resilience, the enduring spirit of a people determined to preserve their cultural heritage.
And that's a theme that resonates throughout this entire saga, the story of the American buffalo. It's a story that highlights our capacity for both destruction and redemption, our ability to push a species to the brink, and then against all odds, bring it back.
It's both humbling and inspiring. But as we move into the third part of our deep dive, I think it's important to remember that the story isn't over.
You're right, the buffalo still faces challenges, and there are crucial questions we need to address about how to ensure their long-term survival in a world increasingly shaped by human activities.
So we've journeyed, through the depths of near extinction
Yeah,
and witnessed a pretty remarkable recovery.
absolutely.
But as we kind of enter this final chapter of our deep dive into the story of the American buffalo,
Yeah.
it's time to confront a bit of a sobering truth, right?
Mm,
Their future is far from secure.
you're absolutely right.
It's not a done deal.
No. While we celebrate the progress that's been made, it's crucial to recognize the ongoing challenges that threaten the buffalo's long-term survival. Challenges that, in many ways, reflect the larger environmental crises we face as a global community.
Right. So let's talk about those challenges. Where do we even begin?
Well, one of the most pressing issues is habitat loss and fragmentation.
Okay.
As human development continues to expand, those vast grasslands that the buffalo need to roam are shrinking and becoming increasingly fragmented.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
almost like we've saved them from the bullet only to confront them with death by 1,000 cuts, right? Roads, fences, sprawling suburbs, all chipping away at their habitat.
That's a powerful image, and it's sadly accurate.
Yeah,
And then there's the ever-present issue of disease.
right,
Buffalo are susceptible to a number of illnesses, some of which can be transmitted from cattle.
right.
This requires constant vigilance and collaboration between ranchers, conservationists, and tribal communities to prevent outbreaks and protect the health of both buffalo and cattle.
So it's like a delicate balancing act, protecting the buffalo while also managing the needs of ranchers and the overall health of the ecosystem.
It is, yeah.
What are some of the other threats they face?
Well, we can't ignore the looming shadow of climate change.
Right,
Shifting weather patterns, more frequent droughts, and increased risk of wildfires all pose significant threats to the buffalo and their habitat.
right.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder that the challenges facing the buffalo are intertwined with the larger environmental issues of our time.
They are.
We can't address one without considering the other.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
all connected. But amidst these challenges, there's also a growing sense of hope. More and more people are recognizing the importance of the buffalo, not just as a symbol of the American West, but as a keystone species in the ecosystem and a vital part of our cultural heritage.
Yeah, and there's a real movement building to restore buffalo to their native lands.
Yes.
Not just in parks and preserves, but as a key element in working landscapes.
Yes, and it's exciting to see ranchers embracing the benefits of raising buffalo as a sustainable alternative to cattle.
Right.
They're hardier, require less intervention, and actually contribute to the health of the grasslands.
And consumers are catching on too.
Absolutely.
There's a growing demand for buffalo meat, which is leaner and often considered more flavorful than beef.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Good for the environment, good for the economy, and good for our health. And we can't forget the crucial role that Native American tribes are playing in this resurgence.
Absolutely. Their deep knowledge of the buffalo and their commitment to restoring their cultural relationship with these animals is truly inspiring.
They're leading the way, showing us the power of traditional ecological knowledge combined with modern conservation practices. It's a powerful example of what we can achieve when we work together, respecting both cultural heritage and ecological wisdom.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah,
I'm left with a sense of both urgency and optimism.
absolutely.
The challenges are real,
Mm.
but so is the potential for a brighter future. A future where the buffalo once again thunders across the plains.
I agree. The buffalo story is far from over. It's a story that we're all writing together, each of us playing a part.
So what can we do? How can we ensure that the next chapter in this story is one of resilience, restoration, and a thriving future for both buffalo and humans?
Well, I think it starts with awareness. We need to understand the interconnectedness of things, how our choices, what we eat, what we buy, how we use our resources, all have an impact on the buffalo and the environment as a whole.
And we need to move beyond this mindset of humans versus nature and embrace the idea that we're all part of this intricate web of life.
Exactly. We need to become better stewards of the land, recognizing that caring for the buffalo also means caring for ourselves.
It's about finding that balance, that place where human needs and the needs of the natural world can coexist harmoniously.
And that's where the buffalo story can serve as such a powerful inspiration.
Yeah.
They teach us about resilience, adaptation, and the possibility of renewal, even in the face of incredible adversity.
Their journey reminds us that we have the power to make a difference, to right past wrongs, and to create a future where both nature and humanity can thrive. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the story of the American buffalo. Thanks for joining us. I hope you learned something. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into another fascinating topic. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep exploring the world around you.